upset. You know, I'm writing right now, and I'm writing 3 different pieces at once. But, you know, I just saw that Zuckerberg has banned the president from Facebook. And this is what I want to say. If Mark Zuckerberg understands that Donald Trump is a danger, you would think the cabinet would get the same idea. He needs to be removed from office today. And if you don't like political cooking shows, be my guest. I understand, and no harm, no foul, but now's the time to turn me off because I'm going to be talking about politics. I don't have a sponsor. This ain't the Food Network. I can talk about whatever I want. By the way, I'm making an apple crisp. I'm cutting up apples again. I always return to the apple. And I am going to fry them. They will steam in their own juice until they're soft. I'll add butter, salt, sugar, and cinnamon. And they will be quite delicious. And then I am going to put them in puff pastry to make an apple crisp. I usually do all my baked goods from scratch, but I do have a few exceptions that I haven't quite mastered, and puff pastry is one of them. So, you know, I'm sure that if you are a chef, a pastry chef, and you make good puff pastry, you would argue with me, but I certainly do not make better puff pastry than Pepperidge Farm. Okay, so I'm writing 3 pieces, and I just want to talk about one of them because I don't really want to write it. It's hard to write about. It's hard to write about your own insanity. But there was a time where I was in deep with cocaine. I was young. I haven't done cocaine in 35 years, with the exception of one bad night in a dive bar about 10 years ago. I did one line and immediately regretted it. But 35 years is enough time that I can actually talk about it. And I am not saying I have not screwed up my life or body with other things. I'm just saying that it's been 35 years since I've done blow, so I'm going to tell the story. The period of time when I was bad under the influence of coke and drinking a lot on top of it was in the mid-'80s, which were kind of a hedonistic time, especially in New York City. And there were plenty of people around who were happy to offer me cocaine. So I developed a really nasty habit and was in cocaine psychosis more than once. And so I want to talk about one of those times, and it's the most dangerous time that I had that happen, when I was a danger to myself and others. And the reason I am telling this awful story is I started writing about politics again when I listened to that phone call between Trump and the Secretary of State of Georgia. And something kept scratching at the surface of my memory. The way he was speaking to him was familiar. And 2 things happened. I realized, finally, that Donald Trump believes his own lies. He thinks the election was stolen from him. I don't know if his psychosis is organic or chemical induced, but I do know that, or I think rather, that he believes himself. And this is the thing about addiction. I heard a junkie say this once and I loved it. I am the lie. I am the lie. And under psychosis or under addiction or under certain circumstances, all you've got are your lies. All you've got are your lies, because reality is way too painful and stark. So you have to believe your lies, right? And I think that's what's happened to the president. He has to believe his own lies for whatever reason, whether he's ill or for whatever the reason. I do think he believes the lies. Now, somebody like that should not have the nuclear codes. come on. And he's putting forth theories about the election that are wrong. You know, I hate to quote a Republican, but I gotta hand it to Mitt Romney yesterday when he said, the best thing that we can do for people is to tell them the truth. That's right. A lot of damage to undo, because for 4 years, we've let this man call all the shots because we didn't have the courage to stop it. I mean, all of us. I'm not letting anybody off the hook, including myself. Anyway, so I realized that listening to the call, and then this story popped into my head. I was out one night at Tori's, which was an after-hours bar, and I went home with this guy who was a photographer come drug dealer, and I woke up late, of course, and realized that I was supposed to be on a train to Virginia to be visiting my mother. And I looked at the clock. I think the train, I don't know why I remember this, or maybe I'm making it up, but I have it in my mind that the train left at 11:20, and it was 11 when I looked at the clock. And I had to make the train. So I did a couple of lines, and I went through the photographer, because I couldn't do it without chemical aid. I couldn't make a train without chemical aid. So then I ran out of the loft and downstairs, and I hailed a cab. Oh God, this is so bad. And I told the cabbie that I worked for the US government, and that it was a matter of national security that I get to the train on time. And I told him that not to worry if the police followed us, because I could take care of it. And I told him to run every red light he hit. And he did. He did. Because I'm very convincing when I am in the lie. And so is Donald Trump. The horrible part of this story is not that I was 20 years old and in cocaine psychosis, because that had a happy ending for me. You know, I got out of trouble eventually after making myself very ill with some help. But the bad part of the story is that the cabbie believed me. So I'd like to make this analogy. And I just want to say that he did run every light down 7th Avenue, leaning on his horn, and I would scream him through each intersection, and he would duck his head, and I would say, go, go, go. And because he participated in my delusion, I believed it even more. I am the lie. I do work for the CIA. Okay, so I want to make an analogy. If the Georgia's Secretary of State, who was on the call, Raspensperger, I think I may be mispronouncing it, and my apologies if I am. If he had been my cab driver that day, he would have taken one look at me and told me to get out of the cab. And he might have felt sorry for me because I was obviously ill, but he could tell that I was, you know, a girl who had mascara down her face, dressed like Madonna, probably didn't work for the CIA, right? I left out a part. I tipped the guy really well. I tipped the guy really well. And that's an important part, because in my analogy at least. So if Georgia's Secretary of State wouldn't have driven me to Penn Station running all the red lights, I'd need another cab, right? So I get out of the cab, say, and another cab is waiting, tooting its horn and waving me inside, because he heard I was a good tipper and knows there's a payoff for him at the end. That cab driver is Ted Cruz. Now, Ted Cruz knows very well that I don't work for the CIA, but he keeps telling me, yes, I do. And Ted Cruz goes through all the red lights because there's a payoff for him in it. I'd like his resignation on my desk by 5 p.m., along with every other House member and senator who is encouraging the delusions of this man that is destroying our country. Now I gotta fry some apples.